This is going to be our remembrance for 9/11/2001. At this time, we'd like to do. Do we have a lowering of the colors? I hope you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two. Okay, looks like our minister is not here, so please uncover. Dear Lord, bless everybody that is here. Help all the people that lost relatives and friends at 9/11, and may this never happen again. Amen. At this time, Cindy Shaw will sing the national anthem. Cindy with an I.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning, everyone. What a beautiful day. I think we can celebrate our freedom and also respect what happened at 9/11. We all remember where we were. I remember I was in the Portland airport waiting for a flight, and all of a sudden we heard this in the airport that this happened, and there was suddenly no sound outside. It was very strange. We all know what it was like on that day, and I just thank the Lord that we're all here to celebrate a memorial to those that did not survive and those that continue to have medical issues. I know, I can't believe it's been 20 some years, but would you please join me in singing the national anthem? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. At this time, we have a little award ceremony. We have an award presentation for Frank Finnegan from the Search and Rescue. You would come up here and accept the it'll be taken over by the commander of the VFW, Dan Core.
Yeah, sure. This is the first time in a long time that we've done this. This is going to be an annual event from now on. honoring our first responders. The certificate reads, awarded to Frank Finnegan, 1590 Search and Rescue, in special recognition and highest praise of alertness, personal courage, and ever-efficient guardianship of life and property. And there is first responder medal.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. Definitely didn't expect it. Thank you.
Well deserved. And if I could get Sheriff Lester here, I have one for Detective Sergeant Brian Sullivan, who unfortunately is not going to be here, but we will present it to him later on at the Sheriff's office. A grateful recognition of unyielding adherence to the highest ideals of law enforcement and maintaining, preserving, and protecting the lawful rights of all citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks to all our awarded people. At this time, I'd like to introduce the Chief Executive, J.P. Gallagher, who has a few words for us.
Thanks, Dave. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's kind of, I wish we had more in attendance because this is such an important date and reunion that we have here. And so, 21 years ago, Americans watched in horror as the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001 left nearly 3,000 people dead in New York City, Washington, D.C., and Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Do you remember where you were at that time? I remember exactly where I was at. Thanks. All right. I remember exactly where I was at. I was outside of Lewistown, Montana, getting ready to go do a speech to a bunch of high school seniors. And what do you say to high school seniors when our country was attacked? One of the most vicious attacks since Pearl Harbor in our history. The importance of 9/11 transcended age, gender, geographic, and even political differences. So when we look back to 9/11, our country came together under one cause, to protect the United States of America. It didn't matter who you were, what you were doing. We understood the importance of us going out and defending our country. It's difficult to think about an event so profoundly transformed U.S. public opinion across so many dimensions of 9/11 attacks. While Americans had shared sense of anguish after September 11th, the months that followed also were marked by a rare spirit of unity. It's now been 21 years since the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and Pentagon and the crash of Flight 93, where only the courage and the passengers and crew brought down that flight. Today we remember and celebrate our military, police, fire, and emergency service workers. It's important that we never forget. Our leaders need to find a way to bring our country back together because there is more that unites us than divides us. God bless the United States of America. God bless Butte, America. We need to remember. We need to come back together. Thank you for coming out today.
Thank you, JP. Our next speaker will be the Butte Silver Bowl Sheriff, Ed Lester.
I see it must have been well publicized that I'd be speaking here today because the crowd's a little light. The good news is I don't have any notes, so it might be a very short speech. The bad news is I don't have any notes, so it might go on longer than most of you would like. When I thought about first responders, it's easy to think the fire department and the police department, but what happens a lot of times is we forget about first responders in the dispatch center and in our detention center. Montana Highway Patrol, and the search and rescue, who play such a huge role in our community. We forget about those sometimes as being first responders. And so the second thing I thought about is when people think of first responders, they think of the danger that is encountered when people respond to scenes. And being a first responder isn't simply being the first one to get there. And a lot of times, early in my career, I'd be responding to something, and the lieutenant or sergeant would then pull me aside afterward and say, it's not a race, it's not the Indianapolis 500. You don't win by being first. You win by having some kind of a plan to make whatever situation you're responding to better when you get there. So a little less on the gas pedal and a little more thinking would not hurt you. So I learned that, and I try to share that with our officers. Like I said, the danger is something people think about all the time, and so I don't need to cover that. What we don't think about is what happens to our first responders after they leave a call. And I only speak from my own experience. There was a call about 30 years ago. It was a child that had been hit by a motorhome. And I'll never forget the call, and I'll never forget the impact it left on me. I was probably 2 or 3 blocks away when the call was put out over the radio. I got there, there was a woman that was comforting this child, who was about 2.5 years old, who'd literally been run over by a motorhome. And so the blanket that she put on him was covering him from about his chest down. And so I remember the color of the kid's face, and I remember thinking he just looked so horrible with a gray color. And I got out of the car, and I was the first responder. And so I walked over there, and when I lifted that blanket off, the damage and the injuries he had were so horrific that it overloaded my mind to the point where I literally for a second started to stand up and avoid what I had to do. And so that probably lasted about a quarter of a second. And then I remembered, what do I have to do here? And I remember thinking back to the academy, airway, breathing, circulation. Does he have an airway? Is he breathing? Is there circulation? And he was, and then I started working on my med kit and starting to try to stop some of the bleeding. And I'll never forget how happy I was to see the fire department and the ambulance show up, so that someone else was there, probably who had their head on better than I did. And so that the child actually survived with life-altering injuries, but that call bothered me for several weeks afterward, and I couldn't figure out why, because it didn't seem to be the injuries the child had sustained were bothering me. More so it was my reaction that I stood up, or started to stand up. I don't even think I probably left the ground. My mind wanted me to get up and go somewhere else. And so my reaction bothered me, because I thought people in this community, and anybody who hires a police officer certainly doesn't want somebody who might think twice about doing the right thing. And so I was in the briefing room one night talking to one of my lieutenants, Fred Gay, and I said, hey, have you ever had anything like that happen to you? And he said, of course I've had that happen to me. He said, if you don't have things like that happen to you in the face of something that terrible, you're not normal. And I said, well, I didn't think that would happen to me. He said, it's not, what's important is when you felt like you should go somewhere else, what did you do? And I said, well, I went back to my training, and I said, I need to start helping this kid, and I did what I could. I'm certainly no hero, but I did whatever I thought I should do. And he said, that's why they call you, to do whatever you can do to make these things better. He said, if you don't have those feelings of maybe not knowing what to do, but you pushed through that feeling and did what you had to do, and that's the difference between first responders and folks who aren't able to do that. So instead of being hard on yourself, you should be proud on yourself, because you literally made a decision to do what you didn't want to do. And so it took a while for me that thought to settle in, but that's what first responders are. You don't call first responders and say, hey, everything's going well today, why don't you come down and have a cup of coffee? You call first responders because you need them to take some action to make things better. And whether it's the police or the fire department or the ambulance or search and rescue or the highway patrol or whoever it is, they're there to make a difference, and they put whatever that fear or feeling is aside and do what's right. So I just want to say how thankful I am to be part of the first responders who are in this community and in this country, because it truly is a fraternity that not a lot of people understand. They see the physical danger, but they don't see the things that maybe affect you after the call. And so in that case, one simple conversation with the lieutenant convinced me that I was able to do this job, and it's been a long time, 30 years, and that's the key, that if we can talk to each other, maybe we don't realize the impact that that conversation had. And Fred Gay's a long time passed away now. I don't know that I ever told him that, but it's those simple conversations amongst people that we've lost track of in our society as a whole. We're too busy sending texts and emails, and we need to talk to each other and see if we're doing all right. So out of respect for our first responders and our military and all the folks who've experienced some kind of trauma, maybe go out of your way to talk to somebody this week about how they're doing. God bless Butte, Montana, and thank you for coming out.
Okay, our keynote speaker developed some COVID, so I guess I'm going to fill in for him. On this day, 21 years ago, terrorists took control of 4 airliners. Passengers on one airliner stood up, and that airliner never made it to its target. 2 of them made the Twin Towers, and 1 crashed into the Pentagon. After they crashed, emergency personnel took over, put themselves in harm's way. Fire, destruction, falling buildings. They came forward. And they came and helped other people. 21 years ago, this happened. It can happen tomorrow. To everybody out there, I think we should maintain vigilance and keep this country safe. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Cindy Shaw again for her solo.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for that moment of remembrance. Well, I'm not going to sing a solo because I love to have you all sing with me. So we'll do this on this beautiful day in Butte, Montana. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. This time, we have the benediction. We're leaving. Please stand and uncover. Dear Lord, protect this country and give solace to all the families of people that were injured on 9/11 and passed away. And may this never happen again. Thank you. Marine Corps flag bearers, then Hut. Dismissed. Honor Guard Commander, take charge.
Bugler Sam Paps, present arms. Port arms. Firing squad. Half left, face. Prepare to fire 3-round volley. Ready. Aim. Fire. 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 Port arms. Half right, face. Honor guard, right, face.
I want to thank those who have participated in this ceremony. There is coffee and cookies over to the side of the Veterans Memorial. Please stay and visit. Thank you. That concludes our ceremony.